When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Comet YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be an interesting topic on the idea of, is Littlefinger really a villain? Or this character that should be frowned upon? And yes, Littlefinger does commit some actions that are morally gray or bad, but we're going to have to look at his character as a whole, and look at what motivates Littlefinger, and how his whole upbringing is about, because really Littlefinger is a story of how the small folk or the lords that don't have a lot of power get treated in this world, and how there is this class system that inherently destroys everyone at the bottom. And it's something that Dany is kind of working towards and wants to fix, but at this point it still hasn't happened. So this is going to be almost a character analysis. It's not really like, you know, some of my Maegor video or my Viserys video I did last week. It's not that much to an extent, but we're going to look at some of the pivotal moments of Littlefinger's life, and we're going to understand why he becomes the person he does. And Littlefinger is someone that very much plays into his role of, we get this quote, right? So I did on Tuesday, John 1, and we get this quote from Tyrion, where basically the gist of the quote is, be who you are. Like, accept that you are a bastard, accept that you're an imp, accept that you're Littlefinger, this person that's small in stature who isn't very dangerous. Accept that, right? And then use it. So that's what Littlefinger does a lot, and we're going to start this little video talking about Littlefinger's upbringing and kind of the way he's treated his entire life. Because Littlefinger is a character, in my opinion, that gets abused. He's a character that gets bullied. He's a character that is really never seen as an equal. He is someone that is used for other people's gains or to get them forward. He's never seen as a person, really, outside of a couple characters in the story that do see him as a person, but not fully, like to what Littlefinger wants himself to be. And yeah, so before we get further into Littlefinger's life, if you guys like to subscribe, like, and comment, please do. It helps channel grow. Feel that might like this content as well. And let's get into Littlefinger. So Littlefinger, we know, grows up in Riverrun. Now, he becomes very close with the Tully children, Lysa, Catelyn, and Edmure. Now, this is a very weird relationship because it's a very odd situation where in the beginning it was very innocent and whatever, but Littlefinger then starts to like Catelyn, like falls in love with her. Lysa falls in love with Littlefinger, and then Edmure is kind of like, he's a friend to Littlefinger, but at the same time, like, not really. Like, Edmure's the person that gives Littlefinger his nickname. So even Edmure, who's this person that's kind of a friend, quote unquote, to Littlefinger when he's young, is the one that gives him his most disrespectful name, really. So it kind of encompasses this whole idea that even from a young age, Littlefinger's friends aren't really friends and have ulterior motives. Now, Catelyn is someone that genuinely was trying to be Littlefinger's friend, thought of him more as a brother, but the problem here is that we see that Catelyn leads Littlefinger on, I think, a lot, which is something that I think is weird. I know, you know, this happens with young people all the time, whether that be guys, women, of leading people on, and Catelyn does this. Catelyn kind of uses Littlefinger for the attention at times, because we know Catelyn doesn't exactly say no to Littlefinger, right? They have these kissing games in the Godswood with both Catelyn and Lysa with Littlefinger, which, let's not even get us started how weird that is. But yeah, so mainly they're both kissing Littlefinger, I guess to practice or something, just to, you know, whatever. And then Littlefinger gets a little tonguey, okay? And that's when Catelyn stops it. But again, it kind of feels like there's something there. If you're in Littlefinger's mind, you're in love with this girl, she's letting you kiss her. Like, I don't know. Now, Lysa, you know, she goes a little further, but, you know, she's a little the freakier one. But it's this interesting idea that Littlefinger, from an early age, the people surrounding him that are quote-unquote his friends don't treat him like a friend, don't really treat him like an equal. They kind of treat him as this plaything, like Edmure and Catelyn do. Now, Lysa is kind of in love with him, so that's a different story there, but it is an interesting idea, and that kind of leads us further down when there's this idea that Catelyn is betrothed to Brandon Stark, right? Catelyn and Littlefinger dance 6 times that night. So again, Catelyn plays on this whole idea of kind of leading Littlefinger on, okay? And he does try to kiss her and tries to, you know, get her to like him. She rejects him, pushes him away, and here's the key part. She doesn't let him down easy. She doesn't give him like a little, oh, you know, I don't want this, Littlefinger, I'm sorry. She laughs at him. That stings. If you've ever been in a situation where you like this girl and maybe you just get rejected, maybe you're just like, she's like, no, I just want to be friends. Imagine she laughs at you. So obviously, Catelyn doesn't really see Littlefinger as anything more than this plaything that she can use for attention. And when that attention isn't needed anymore, because again, she's being betrothed to Brandon Stark, it doesn't, you know, Littlefinger is really alone. He's treated as someone that is less than everyone else. And Peter gets drunk, and he's brought to his bed by the Blackfish. Now, what follows here, I think, is probably an even more traumatic moment, because regardless if Littlefinger wanted to have sex with Lysa, like, later on or not, he is getting raped. Like, this is sexual assault that's going on to Littlefinger. When Lysa sneaks into his bed and gives him her maidenhead, Littlefinger didn't think that was the person even in his bed. He thought it was Catelyn, right? So this is rape. This is what rape is. Because Littlefinger did not know who was in there, and he was in a highly intoxicated state. So again, we see Littlefinger being used, and again, we know later on that Littlefinger does get Lysa pregnant for the second time they get together. That's an entirely different circumstance, and I just want to show you how people take advantage of Littlefinger, and that's going to continue when he gets into his like older life, into the small council. That's where it really kickstarts, but I want to show you guys and build in Littlefinger's early life the way no one really cared about Littlefinger. No one really saw Littlefinger for a person. And that's kind of how we see Cersei, how she treats people. That's a lot of what's going on here. And we don't think about that a lot when we think about characters like the Tullys, but that is what happens. And Littlefinger has one last like thing for trying to get Catelyn Stark. He tries to duel Brandon. And Brandon, you know, to his credit, you know, tries to spare Littlefinger, tries not to hurt him. But Littlefinger just kind of gets bullied here. I mean, there's no way he's going to beat Brandon Stark, and I think the salt in the wound for Littlefinger is that Edmure is squiring for Brandon. So literally you have like 2 of the 3 people that he considered his closest like people in his life against him, watching him get cut brutally. It's an awful feeling, and we see how that develops him later on. And there's not really much else I wanted to talk about with Littlefinger in his early life at Riverrun, but just know that he had a lot of trauma at a very young age and things that were really terrible. Now, the next thing I want to say is we know that now Littlefinger and Lysa do continue their relationship even after Littlefinger is gone, and Lysa gets Littlefinger a lot of appointments, like giving control of the customs at Goldtown, and then later on helping in King's Landing with the Master of Coin. We know that because of Lysa's because of Lysa's influence, she gets Jon to appoint him to these things. But I want you to think about this again, that Littlefinger, not because of his brilliance, is getting these things when it comes to finance and money and how to work around with gold. It's because of Lysa, right? And Littlefinger himself is just being used. No, Jon Arryn does not care about Littlefinger. No one cares about Littlefinger. It's the same idea here with Varys, right? Where if Varys stops being a good informant, he's going to be killed or they're going to send him away. When Littlefinger stops being useful to these people, he's going to be disregarded, never heard of again. It's this continuing idea that I want to bring up of how people use Littlefinger and how he's never seen as an equal. And that's what he's chasing so desperately to get to, not only be an equal, but to rule over these people and treat them the way that he was treated from a young, even into his middle-aged life. And these events kind of get us into the main story. But when you think about all the things that happen, right? Even Ned Stark, right, treats Littlefinger as a servant. He treats him as this person that you do what I tell you to do, right? And I want you guys to think about something that Littlefinger, does in a Game of Thrones that maybe wasn't as genuine because Littlefinger knew that Ned wasn't going to accept it. But Littlefinger does offer peace. He says, hey, Ned, how about you just rule as Lord Protector until Joffrey comes of age, right? And then we'll work from there, right? It gets peace. Both sides are maybe happy in this situation. Now, I don't think Cersei would have let this happen. Again, don't think Littlefinger would have happened. I think this was still a trap for Ned. I think Ned, at this point, was screwed when he's having to rely on Littlefinger. Like think about the way he talks about Littlefinger, right? When they're trying to get the gold cloaks, Ned is basically like, oh yeah, I can't say it, but because I'm too honorable, but Littlefinger, yeah, do it. Like, Ned is too much above someone like Littlefinger to even consider saying the words to bribe the golden cloaks. And is it really surprising that Littlefinger takes Ned out, basically? Ned treats him like shit. His brother treats him like shit, gave him the mortal rune. I know that Brandon wasn't, trying to kill Littlefinger or anything like that, but look at it from Littlefinger's point of view. This guy gave you a massive wound. He then took your woman that you love, and now Ned also has the woman you love. So, in my opinion, Littlefinger is very justified in his acts. I think, for me, we understand exactly where he's coming from. And that kind of continues us into the next few books, where I just want to kind of bring up the idea that all of his actions, right, of him gaining power or this or that, yes, Littlefinger does do some not great things. But are they justified when you think about the things that were done to him, right? It's an interesting idea. So, for instance, you have Littlefinger, right, probably being involved in killing Joffrey. Killing someone else, not a good thing. But he kills someone that is a terrible king and is a terrible person. He has his own motivations, of course. But with all of these things being said, Littlefinger is not this character that is just evil, that's a villain. He has very understandable human qualities. And I think what George puts into Littlefinger that is very important is the idea of this is what most people would be. When Littlefinger's just starting out, right, as a person, even Littlefinger is a step above what most people are, where they're not even a lord, they're a peasant, they're a farmer, they're a blacksmith, they're this or that. Littlefinger is someone that even gets a little bump up in life and is still treated like garbage because he's not one of the high lords, or he's not a lord to a big castle. It's an interesting idea, and it really shows us the class system during this time and how awful it really was. And I like the way that we're showing that personification within Littlefinger and in giving him some of those qualities and showing us someone that is able, against all odds, to grow up in that system and reach higher peaks to where he's owning a huge castle in Harrenhal. He is the Lord Protector of the Eyrie and the Vale. It's an interesting idea, and it's something that, in reality, a lot more of us should probably be rooting for Littlefinger. So let me know what you guys think about this video idea. I don't know. I presented it in a way that I think was an interesting idea. Now, no, I'm not sure if I'm 100% behind my own video idea, because there are some things that Littlefinger does in the story that are quite evil and lead to thousands of people dying. Like Ned, right, is this idea that it's a personal thing for Littlefinger, while also creating chaos and killing thousands. So you take the good and the bad. But thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys liked this video, kind of more of an in-depth on Littlefinger. It wasn't as like my character analysis where it's a 40-minute, but it was a longer video about Littlefinger. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.